In 5, 4, 3, buckle up tight. 2, 1. It's the DarnTV download. DarnTV.com proudly presents the download with yours truly, Nick Holberg, alongside of Brandon Beater, the president of Nodak Speedway, the owner of DarnTV, and 5-time track champion across the state of North Dakota in the hobby stocks, Mr. Brock Beater. Gentlemen, welcome in. How are we today? I feel like Howard Stern here a little bit. I think we need a little more.
How are you doing? I haven't seen you since basketball season.
I'm doing good. We've had a little bit of a break now. We've had some time to relax, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm ready for dirt track season to kick off. This is that time of the year.
I'm just gonna say one thing before we go. I got a phone call today. Somebody called me trying to get in contact with PSP Network, and as honored as I am, I'm already busy enough. So I'm gonna pass that on to you.
Well, thank you so much. How are you doing? How are things going in the off season right now with everything racing world? I see the garage out there is about to get turned upside down, and there's going to be some work on a race car. I mean, this is kind of your life. What's it like now in the lead up to the season right now?
I think I kept busy all winter with you. This last month has been like anything else. I'm not nearly as organized as I usually am at this time of year, and it's not by anybody's fault. I'm dealing with stuff out at work, and this ain't the place to get into that. It's a whole bunch of drama at work, and it just drags a guy down. When you're having troubles at a workplace or whatever, it just drags you down. So I haven't been solely focused on racing like I normally have been in the past. We're gonna get there though. I'm getting excited. We did a Dirt Weekly with Larry. Now we're doing this. Like, racing is starting to go.
How about you?
I'm ready. I'm ready for the warm weather. I'm ready to. We worked at the racetrack. You get the itch. You start watching it on TV. You're ready. It's April. Everybody puts their schedule out for end of April. We've had to cancel. It's driving me nuts. Even though I'm not racing right away, and I got Max over there going to race, I've still got the same fire to be at the racetrack every week.
Any blessing in disguise as a driver, car owner, pit crew guy that allows you a little more time to prep? Is that something that is a positive there?
Yeah, we didn't have our stuff done yet. So, yeah, in a blessing a little bit. But I guess if the season was to start, we would have hurried up and got it done.
Yeah, we kind of, with the snowstorms, allowed us to maybe spend a little bit more time, would you say, down at the shop? You know, getting Max's car ready, buttoning up some things.
Yep.
And I've tried to spend more time. You've probably seen me at the shop more this year than you have the last 4 years combined.
Well, that's what it's kind of nice having you down there more. Max is participating a lot more because obviously it's his car. So it's going to be a surprising thing. He's actually going to be 48, not 47.
Yeah, it's going to confuse everybody.
It's going to confuse people. He's taking after his uncle instead of his
That's the
dad.
stickers we had. Come on now.
Yeah, I understand he wanted to be a winner. I didn't mean to. Anyway, let's talk about.
Well, how come what's the main sponsor on the one side of the car?
I love it. That looks beautiful, by the way. That PSP Network looks great on there. Thanks for doing that, boys. It looks fantastic. Let's talk about this for a minute. The download and what we're doing here. We've got the Dirt Weekly with the legend Larry McFall, a guy that is well respected in all circles across dirt track land, and a guy that is an absolute legend. I love the show again last night. What's the difference between the Dirt Weekly and the download, and what is this brainchild? What are we doing here? What can fans expect from this?
I think what our dream child was here is we wanted to talk about not necessarily the winners, the losers of the weekend, you know, who all raced and give results. And we wanted to talk about the nuts and bolts of the weekend. We wanted to talk about the nuts and bolts of racing, the hard to talk about things that people at home or even racers, they can't bring it up, and it's super hard to talk about that stuff without pissing people off, and people get butthurt. We're in a very sensitive society. I'm gonna say it. There's a lot of Karens out there. No offense to any Karen, but there's a lot of people out there that get their feelings hurt super easy. And we're going to talk about things on this show. Maybe not this first episode. We're going to kind of take it easy. This first one, we'll discuss things. You know, we might go into it. I almost found myself yet on the Dirt Weekly going down the route of open motor, claim motor thing. And I had to pull back a little bit because I have way more opinions that we can talk about on this show. And when Brock and I discussed doing this, that's what we want to talk about. We want to discuss, you know, what people are spending per se on an open motor just to beat a crate motor, and, you know, the differences and what needs to be done to kind of curtail that stuff, and also the ins and outs of the the race program. Jesse Long just wrecked on the racetrack. What the heck does it take to fix the fence after a deal like that? You know, it just, I want to give people a sight into what we do.
Kind of a behind the scenes aspect
Yep.
of, you're going to do it more so from the president, the Nodak Speedway version, and you're going to have other guests other than myself here, but we're going to give you our opinion. Now, this is our opinion.
Yep.
It's not fact, okay? So that's why we're going to upset some people, but we're not out to purposely upset, and we're not going to use any names. Let's not call people out, but if there's something that happens this weekend at any track and there's kind of a situation, we're going to bring it up. A call, the way the slide job at Bristol happened. Well, what if that happens at your track? What are we going to do? What would you do to win that race? How much money is it for? You know what I'm saying? What is too far? What is not too far? And that's what I love.
Yeah, I love the concept of this and the opportunity to get both sides of that argument in here around this circled round table, or circled square table, if you will, the opportunity to have those conversations and to be able to hear both sides of it on some of these things. Is there going to be a time that we're going to need a security cop in here and I'll be wearing a referee jersey, do you think? I mean, is that where this thing goes?
I hope so. I hope we get that far. I mean, I hope people are adult enough when this all goes down, and there's going to be haters out there that says, Brandon's just trying to feed on the drama. He's just trying to, create drama, and that's not right. That's not what you're supposed to do. No, I'm trying to actually get people to not be so upset when they get bumped by a car on the racetrack. Like, like a guy. Let's talk about it. Let's bring it up, man. Why are you so upset because that guy bumped you? Where have we went in society that we get upset in the snap of a fingers?
I agree. And I'm not saying, now you look at me, I'm going to say 5 years ago when I got bumped, and we were the same way. We'd be upset, like, dude, I'm not going to race you that way. Don't quit to hitting me. Well, I've kind of grown a little older, maybe relaxed a little bit. I understand that's part of racing. I've watched some old races back in the day and some other stuff, NASCAR. They were bumping and grinding. Now, they weren't necessarily taking them out, but rubbin's racing. We got to loosen up and have some fun. You're going to have to put on a show for the fans, so a little bit of bumping ain't going to kill nobody.
What made you change? What do you think, just a maturity level, or the fact that you've had the inside look at having to deal with people hammering on the board and presidents like your brother?
Use the word mature loosely with Brock.
Well, it's mature maybe, but I'm tired of the always people mad about everything. You know what I mean? And I sat back and I go, dang, I'm kind of that guy sometimes. And we got guys that hang out with us, and they call us weekly, daily, sometimes during races, and to complain about the smallest stuff. And it's like, really? That's upsetting you? Like, come on.
What do you think the difference is between 1992 and 2022 right now? I mean, there's always that complaining and always, maybe you didn't get a fair shake type of a feeling, but how much worse is it now, do you think, than back then?
Access to shows like this, access to social media, access to venting your opinion, to saying your piece and getting it out there and not having to take responsibility for it.
Doing it on Facebook, doing it on Twitter, do it on Instagram. And back then, you would actually probably go confront them, and heck, sometimes there was a fight. You know what I mean?
Well,
not saying we want to promote fighting. That is not it. But they would go, instead of venting, they'd go on Facebook, put their rant on there, and they really don't care if they they're not meaning to sometimes, but they make it look bad for Nodak Speedway. They say, hey, that car hit me, or there was some rubbing, we were beating and banging. Nodak should have did something, or Williston should have did something. They say the track should take responsibility of it instead of taking responsibility for their own actions.
But it comes down to this, and I think we see it in all sports right now, high school sports. Social media is an easy place to go to get people to jump on your opinion. If I have an opinion on something, I'm going to put it out there. The color pink is 10 times better than the color green. And there's going to be people that get on there that are going to agree with me. Well, it's no different. When a call is made or something that happens at a racetrack, the first thing people do is jump to social media. And then they get a bunch of people on there and they justify and they pound their chest and they go, see, I was right. Well, no, you just have popular opinion. You're not right. Nobody's right. We make a judgment call. It is what it is, you know.
It's a judgment call, and you don't get to watch replays. You got to call it how you've seen it and use your other eye. You're going to make mistakes. Don't umpires make mistakes?
And then also when you have a feud with somebody, if Brock takes me out, the first thing I do is to go on social media. Brock is a hack. He can't drive a damn race car. I don't know why Nodak don't black flag him every night. And everybody jumps on there and agrees with me, and I feel all great the next day. Well, I didn't even go talk to Brock as a person. And then there's certain people out there, and see, I'm getting on my soapbox because I have a whole bunch of this. I deal with a lot of this at Nodak Speedway, and I didn't want the show to necessarily turn into me on the soapbox, but there's people out there that don't want drivers to go to other pits. And I think that is that. If you are a person that does not want a driver to go to somebody else's pit and have a conversation, you're wrong. That's what this sport is missing. We are not able to go to somebody's pit and have a conversation and talk about what happened on the track. No, it instantly goes into yelling, screaming, and then somebody throwing a punch or whatever. You can't just go, hey, man, why'd you hit me? You know, was it necessary? You know, and then you have a conversation about it.
Is it killing the racing? Is that a real concern? I mean,
I don't want to say it's killing racing. We can go into a debate on one of these shows sometime about what's helping racing and what's killing racing. Social media right now is the best marketing tool racing has. So taking social media away would not be a good thing. Keeping the social media, keep what you use social media for is what needs to be kind of curtailed a little bit. But I don't want to say it's I think more than anything the economy is killing racing. But also might rub some people wrong here. The not wanting to put the effort in to win is killing racing. You know, people get involved in racing. They think within 2 years I should be winning because I'm spending the same money or I'm spending more money or whatever on a race car. God darn it, I should be winning. No, it takes a lot of work to win. You're not just going to do it.
Buy the parts. Just because I outspent you doesn't mean I'm better than you. You know what I'm saying?
1,000%.
But a lot of people don't get that. You go 2 years, 3 years is the longevity in some of these guys. You got some guys that stick around. They want to work at it. And some of that's now I'm going to pick on that Max guy. The drive. I remember being your pitman at 12 and 13 out in that garage, nut and bolting it because I wanted to work on a race car because I wanted to race. Now, Max wants to race. He wants to race. But he doesn't always want to spend the time in the shop.
We have to push him.
You got to kind of get
push him.
Once they get there, they're good. They get kind of involved. They get excited. And I'm just picking on Max because he's my nephew, and I've been working in the shop with him. So I got, but we got to get, there's that next generation doesn't feel like they have the same drive. Maybe iRacing, it's a little easier. You wrecked a car, you go in there, you change the setup, you try again. It's a little bit simpler.
I love it. I can take somebody out, and 30 seconds later, I'm racing again.
I understand. It's great. But it's the good things about technology and our social media. There's also bad things. We got to just
write down on your piece of paper, episode whatever. Write down next episode or episode in the future, the pros and cons. What is racing like? Maybe we need to get some other guests on here. What's killing racing and what's helping racing? I think that would be a great episode to have, and maybe get another voice on here. Maybe get, we can interchange people out. It wouldn't be that big of a deal during the show, or get other people's views, because I have a completely different view, and I want to hear other people's views. That's one thing that being the president has taught me is you may not think I'm listening, but I'm always listening. And I may not do exactly what you want, but I'm always listening, and I may do a version of what you want.
And just because you don't respond to what they're saying
doesn't mean I'm not listening.
You're still listening. Everybody wants that's the instant gratification type thing. Society, we say it, we expect something done now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I love it. I think it's an interesting conversation. Another episode on those pros and cons for me as a fan, and that's where my viewpoint is of dirt track racing. I mean, from the time I was a little tiny kid going to the first Nodak Speedway event that I went to at 5 or 6 years old until Now I'm going to be 37 years old here this summer, or 38, whatever it is. I'm starting to lose track. But the drama that is, and some of that stuff from a fan's perspective is what gets you to come back. I mean, that's what it's all about. But understanding with a deeper dive into it and understanding the logistics and the financials a little bit more of what it actually takes to put together a race car at any level, any class, the amount of time and hard work, the amount of emotions from those drivers and owners and pit crews. I mean, there's a lot on this one. There's a lot here to talk about. One thing for sure that we know is that we're not doing any racing right now with the weather the way it's been. And my big question for you're a dirt man and you're a dirt man as well. Are we going to see a bunch of changes with the way that racetrack is going to set up on the first few nights with the moisture we've had? Are we going to have any major issues there? What can we expect after getting the amount of moisture that we got at the end of the year right here?
I think, well, depends on where you're at. I don't know the track prep situation in other tracks, but like I'll use Nodak. We did some dirt work there this winter, and then after working with the dirt, I think it was hard. We should shed the moisture. I don't see an issue at our track with all this moisture. It should be okay. I'm not going to make any promises. It was hard and packed. As long as people did their job, and you get a week or two. We need some warm weather. That would help solve a lot of problems.
I heard last night you and McFall talking about removing some of those rocks from the racetrack. How big of an issue really is that from driver standpoint, from the fan standpoint, but from the management of that racetrack standpoint? Where's the real issue lie with the amount of rocks that covered Nodak Speedway? And again, I don't.
It was an unsafe. It was something that was becoming a safety hazard.
Yes.
Not only for the drivers, but for the fans. If you stood down front a couple times when the races were going, and it sounded like it was raining on the concrete in front of the grandstands. That's how many rocks were being thrown up in the air. We located last summer, I think halfway through the summer, we knew that there was a gravel pit in turn 3 and 4. There's like a vein of gravel in there. We located it. We tried to dig up the racetrack last fall to screen it, to get rid of that. It didn't work.
Well, Mother Nature, it was at the end of the year. It got cold, some snow, rain, whatever. It's hard to screen it when it's wet. It didn't fall through.
It didn't allow us to do it. We ran out of time in the fall, and this spring, Brock and my dad, we came up with a plan to go out there and excavate 2 feet of dirt off of turn 3 and 4. 2 feet of, call it dirt, but the bottom half of the racetrack was actually gravel that you could almost put on somebody's drive. You need a couple loads of gravel?
Yeah, I sure do.
We should have brought it out to your house.
It was, so now from the dirt work guy, it didn't make sense for me to remove that. That was a good base. Like, man, that was never going to chunk out. That's what I want to build a parking lot out of. That's for doing business.
Sandy.
It's a nice, good sandy clay with some stone in it. It bonded great. Man, pulling that out was nice and hard. And then now I put in some rock-free dirt that was a little bit different, and it didn't pack as nice. It packed. I'm not saying it did. It just wasn't as easy to work with. Do you know what I mean? Like, it didn't. I was actually doing it backwards. Like, usually I would remove that stuff and bring in this stuff, the stuff I took out, and build a parking lot, and it would be great. But there was a lot of rock, gravel. From the flood, I don't know. Some of it is, I don't think we would have ever found this dirt. We reshaped the track 5-6 years ago, and we lowered everything inadvertently. Just reshape the track, and then you found this. This came to the surface. And everywhere you set your right rear end and you set in the car, you slowly but surely dig a hole. It happens. So that rock came out, and we removed 2 feet from the bottom of the track, about, we'll call it 3/4 of the way up the track, from corner 4 all the way back to corner 3. We didn't have time or money to do the whole track, so we're going to try this. It's got different rock-free dirt. That's step 1, is rock-free dirt. It might be bad dirt for a racetrack. It's dirt, and it doesn't got no rocks in it. You know what I mean? But everybody's got to race on the same track without that rocks or different dirt.
The fear that we have is right now is we didn't do anything to turns 1 and 2. Well, we dug We reshaped. We didn't reshape. We fixed turn one. We had an issue in turn one last year. It was kind of a rolly bumps, and we fixed turn one.
Yep.
Redid the corner entry to turn one to get rid of that. But other than that, turn 1 and 2 stayed for the most part. I mean, some dirt got moved because we tilled it up last year.
Just because, and that helped actually by tilling it up, and we aired it out, we got it dry again, and we packed it all back in. And with that, we got to reshape it a little bit, get rid of the rolling bumps. But I want to make something very clear here. That 3 and 4 will still have rocks in it. Because when that blade drives around and blades the whole track, he's carrying rocks, unfortunately, from the back straightaway and corners, front straightaway to there. So don't go out on that track and walk down to 3 and 4 and go, hey, I see a rock. Because
rocks are going to move around as you move equipment around.
Yeah, simple as that. You know what I mean?
One of the questions that I have on this, and it's a hot button topic for sure, I'm sure, but you touched on financially, it didn't make sense to remove that whole racetrack. What are we actually talking here? If you are to, not only financially, but logistically, if you were to say, all right, let's start from scratch, let's get the best clay that we can possibly get, what does that project even look like to remove Nodak Speedway's dirt, get rid of it completely, and bring in new dirt, new clay, and actually reshape that? What nightmare is that?
Well, so we did a bid last year.
Well, it really wasn't a bid.
We did a quote, or we discussed
talked to
it.
us and another contractor on doing it. And really the hardest part of the thing was the trucking.
Yep.
Okay? Really, yes, it's a lot of work to use the machines to move the dirt. And we had a spot that was going to donate the dirt, which is cool, but you still got to get it from point A to the racetrack, right? And that's where the trucking comes in. That's the most time-consuming
Then you had
part.
to get the dirt away from the racetrack, so you were making round trips.
Yeah, so now what do you do with that dirt you just took off? You got to get rid of it. So now your trucks are going 2 ways, and that's a process. Look at, for example, they put dirt on Bristol, did they not? They started in January and they finished in March.
We were talking if we were to take on a deal like that, to where we had to haul dirt in, we figured like 400 loads or 400 side dump loads or something like that. And it would take 4 trucks getting 10 loads a day. 2 weeks to get that done. Well,
that's just the trucking.
That's just
part.
the trucking.
You got now
it's going to slow down as you're moving the dirt. But I said somebody wanted us to do it. That we were at a meeting or something, and they go, "Well, let's just do it. If we have the money, let's do it." And I go, "Okay. Well, we're canceling the month of May. We'll come back in June." Or maybe the middle of June.
I can't do it in the middle of winter. The ground's froze. I might be able to remove dirt in the middle of winter, but how do I bring new dirt in and pack it in without it freezing? And then it's going to be soft and mushy. And
you can't do it in the fall. I mean, you can do it in the fall, but the weather is so up and down. How do you plan to do it? And then you run into in the fall time of year to get a contractor to come in. They're busy. The fall time of year is the busiest time of year for a dirt contractor because everybody wants their job done before winter.
If 100% is grade A, the best racetrack that we've seen, what percent are we now with this fix that you're talking about? In your mind, and where are some of the other thoughts on this? I mean, we don't have both sides of the table here, but are there other thoughts that
I can't tell you until we race on it. I can't tell you what the Nodak Speedway's like till we race on it.
I want to say I can't say anything different with that new dirt. Like I said, it's rock-free dirt. It may suck as a racetrack. I have no idea.
You might have to set your car up one way for turn 1 and 2 and a completely different way for 3 and 4.
We're going to have a Darlington effect here. One corner's one way, the other corner's the other way. I guess we're going to make it a challenge. Good thing Max is racing, not me.
What does that do from a driver's standpoint? I mean, especially these guys that have put in millions of laps around that place. I mean, what does that do for the mental game inside the cockpit?
You got to learn to adapt. You got to figure it out. That dirt might dry out faster in 3 and 4, or you know what I mean. You're setting your car up. You got to. Yeah, it's a mind game. You got to know that it's going to be a learning curve for the track crew along with the race crew.
Yeah, you
forget about the track crew.
You want the inside info here. The track crew. What if you put a load of water on turn 3 and 4? If you put the same amount of water on 3 and 4 as you do 1 and 2, and 3 and 4 turns into a slime ball, and 1 and 2 is dusty still. What is a track crew going to do with that? They're going to have to go, yeah, can we just skip this corner down here a couple times with the water truck and go down there?
Right.
How tough is that going to be?
We're going to have to farm one side. It's all going to be It's a different type of dirt. You'll see someday when it dries out. One's darker than the other, but it is dirt that was available.
But it's a black
River
it's not
bottom
river
clay.
bottom clay.
Yep.
You know, it's like at the river bottom. When you go down into the river bottom at your favorite creek where you go fishing, you do a lot of fishing, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Sure.
Yeah, it's the stuff if you go to your slough behind your house, Nick, and you were to dig a hole, that's the black dirt that we got out of there. It's not necessarily black dirt.
All the rocks are on the surface and washed away.
Yeah.
So now it left the sediments from everything, all the stuff goes. Take a jar, it all filters down, and the rocks will wash away with the river. See what I'm saying?
I just have to ask this. I mean, and obviously during the flood of 2011, when the racetrack was used to enclose the state fairgrounds and that beautiful grandstand, what went wrong here? Why? Where? What happened?
In everybody's defense that worked on that, there's no way for them to know what dirt came from where. There was so much dirt being brought in and being used, and it was getting intermixed, and stuff that was being brought in on truckload was dumped next to where the racetrack dirt was going, and vice versa. They were taking the racetrack dirt over to a different spot. You just don't. There's no way to know.
And it's a flood. Really, their last concern was that racetrack. You know,
I don't want them to be concerned about the racetrack. Let's be real.
Agree.
no,
Yeah, me too.
100%. No, that's what I mean. So they said, hey, we'll get you some dirt back. Here's the dirt. And they're not racers. They've never been to the races. They don't understand dirt, rocky dirt, clay, muck. They just think we go dirt track racing, it's dirt, right? What do you think? Did you know there's all these types of different dirt for racetracks? As a fan, do you even care? You just want to see a good show, right?
And that's why, like, when this project came about, you know, having my dad and my brother do it, having somebody come off the street that has never drove a race car, a contractor per se, if they don't know dirt or what kind of dirt we need, it's super tough to try to explain to them what we need. Yeah, and these guys here, I didn't have to worry. We discussed a little bit here and there. I didn't even have to go down there and look because I knew that they knew they were doing. I didn't have to babysit it.
I mean, for me, that seems like one of the biggest logistical challenges as well from running a racetrack as a promoter or a board is finding somebody that knows their way around even trying to shape a racetrack. I mean, how much of that is an issue when you really look at this with...
Hopefully Mike Schmaltz is watching. Mike, I want you back. You're the best racetrack maker that I know. Adam Goff does a great job, but I could relay a message to Mr. Mike Schmaltz and tell him I want it up a little bit here, down a little bit there, and he would do exactly what I said. That's the biggest key. If you're trying to prep a racetrack, you need somebody in that blade that has knowledge to, number one, know how to run the blade, but can interpret what I'm saying, because I'm saying things in racer terminology, or, you know, what we need as a racer, and that does not make sense to
the county blade guy.
The county blade guy.
Right.
Because he puts a crown on the road. We don't want a crown. You know, we want a progressive banking.
I think one of the most disappointing things for me in the last few years, and I should rephrase that, disappointing and also at the same time the most impressive things that I've seen in the last few years is after the COVID year where the state fair didn't happen. And to remove that dirt off of the front straightaway to get ready for Toby Keith or Tim McGraw or whoever it is, the years that gets removed and the feeling out process afterwards and the amount of work that goes in after that to make sure that front straightaway matches up with those two corner exits and entries. The year that the state fair didn't happen, how beautiful that racetrack was. I mean, that was some of the best racing that we have ever seen at Nodak Speedway, and I think there's a bunch of legends around. McFall will tell you the same thing. I mean, you could ask the drivers and see what they think as well. But at the same time, and the amount of work that went back into that to be able to put that track back together after the fair each and every year, to be able to have a racy surface that we've had for the past few years, where, to me, the racing last summer, even with the state fair, was top-notch again. It's been that way for a while. What is the biggest complaint right now from drivers about that racetrack? Because from a fan's perspective, and for me, sitting there on Sunday nights, I say this is righteous. Hell yeah, we've got 2 or 3 good lines of racing. Is that really the case from inside the car? Is that there?
What I'm hearing is, number one, the rocks. The number one top complaint out of anybody that comes and races at Nodak is the rocks.
And why, though? So let me ask you this. I mean, walking through the pits after, I don't remember if it was Mod Tour night or whatever, I mean, looking at those race cars and how banged up they were, looked like hail damage. I mean, what are we talking about on a normal night for a modified that comes in there and gets plastered with rocks the way that some of those guys do? What kind of money are we talking here? What kind of loss is that?
Well, it all depends. You know, a rock hits the wrong spot, hits a shock, hits something internal. It could be massive. You hit something on your motor. Heck, you hit your head. You've been hitting the head with a rock in rugby one there and about knocked you out.
Yeah.
That's where the safety comes in. See, now, this is me being me. That dents in your tin, it's just tin. You're going on a racetrack. There's chance of, you get them not same, but you get dents and stuff from big dirt clumps anyways. So but you know what I mean? If you're going to replace your tin every week or something because of little hail dents, well, you're just being too picky. That's my opinion. But I mean, you could wreck a lot of stuff. I've went through a radiator.
I was gonna say we cost somebody a feature last year because they broke a radiator. Rock went up into the radiator.
Yeah.
You know, and it's tough luck. We can blame Nodak. That person who broke a radiator can be mad and blame Nodak. But when it comes down to it, we're just a group of volunteers trying to put on some races, and we don't have the people out there to go pick rocks. We just don't have the human manpower to go out there and clean that place up. Because no matter how many rocks you pick, like 3 more show up behind it.
Yep. Yeah, it's a never-ending battle. I think every racetrack you go, there's not a lot of rocks, but there is some.
We tried to find the source. I believe we have removed the source of where them rocks were coming to the surface. Now we can start the cleanup. We cleaned up 3 and 4. We're going to try to put some plans together to do the back straightaway, 1 and 2, remove the dirt during the fair, put new dirt on the front straightaway after the fair. We have a plan in place to do the whole racetrack with that same dirt that's in 3 and 4. But yeah, going back to your question, number 1 complaints the rocks.
Yeah, what's number 2?
Number 2 this year was the high side dominance. The top of the racetrack was dominant in most classes on most nights. It's kind of, if you're going to get a lane dominant on a racetrack, you'd rather it be the high side than the bottom. For racing standpoint, if it's around the bottom, you're going to be bumping bumpers, going in the corner. You're going to be fighting and nudging, That's somewhat exciting. But what's more exciting is when you can call a slide job. When they're racing around the top and Travis Hagen or Steve Pfeiffer or, they're pros at them slide jobs, man, and it is so much fun to watch. So if you're going to have a dominant line on a racetrack, you'd prefer it to be the top. But guys complained this year that it became overly dominant in most of the classes.
What's the fix?
Cut the top of the track down a little bit,
hope
you don't go too far.
Now it's a fine line, but there's no rule stating you can't put some more dirt back. So we're gonna cut them off. If the bottom starts to get dominant again or overly dominant,
you just adjust.
You adjust week to week. That's where the blade. That's where you know. It's not like it's this way and that's the only way, and we're staying with it.
There's no manual. There's no manual like how to dirt track shaping for dummies manual.
I can't find it on YouTube either.
I'll tell you right now that if you guys cut the damn top of the track too much and the top side tear doesn't come back, I quit. I'm walking right on out of here because that will be garbage. I'm only joking, of course, but good.
But there's a lot of people with your attitude. There's a lot of people that say that, and then there's people over here that go, get rid of that top so we can widen the racetrack out. We're just trying to create multiple lines, multiple grooves of racing. That's all you can hope for. And on most nights during the summer, man, them finishes in them races and overall, there was some good damn racing at the Nodak Speedway.
There's no doubt about it, man. And that's my thing. And that's why I bring it up. I mean, obviously the rocks is an issue. If you're gonna have that the safety and equipment getting banged up, I mean, obviously there's other places that guys can go to race where maybe that's not an issue, and that's a tough pill for a guy like me to swallow as a fan, saying, what the hell, we want you here, you put on a good show, we need you here, but understanding some of that a little bit more and getting a deeper dive into it, I think is good to understand where that's coming from. It's reassuring to know that you guys are at least making an effort to try to fix it. I mean, that's what the biggest thing is for me, and yeah, good job trying to continue to work on that is where my brain goes with it from a fan's point of view, without a doubt.
Yeah, all we can do is try. All we can do is the best we can do, and I hope everybody understands that in the long run. And I think most people do. I really believe that I, being in this position, I became a sounding board for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that have called me just to vent because I've become that guy that people can vent to, and there's a lot of times I take it too personal, or there was a time in my life that I did take it personal, and I made it, I'm going to go down there, I'd neglect my wife, my kids, I'm going to go down there, and I'm going to work 37 hours on top of my real job, and I'm going to fix the Nodak Speedway just to show up on Sunday and not even have a different product.
Or you still got people complaining.
Yeah, still have.
So now they got this,
now
and
I have a
they're mad
different
about
group.
this.
Yeah.
It just...
what I've learned the last couple years, just let it roll. Let it roll. If people are talking about the track not being good, or the racing was okay, but the high side was dumb, they're still talking about it. They're interested. They want to come back next week to see what happens. So we're accomplishing something.
What kind of concern do you guys have with the economy right now, and where we're at, not only from the drivers and car counts? I mean, you guys could shed some light on that, I'm sure, but from even just a fan's perspective, I mean, you look at where ticket prices are, you look at where the beer prices are, you look at where the nacho prices are. I mean, it is one. I understand that it's a business across the board at these dirt tracks, and I'm not singling out Nodak Speedway. I'm not singling anybody out. Minnesota Wild Hockey, there's signs all over the internet about why is beer $14 at these events. It's pretty expensive, especially if you have a family or if you're a real pickler, and then you got problems to begin with anyway, which luckily we don't do that during the broadcast. But what kind of situation do you think we're in economy-wise moving forward with where the world states today? Not to get political on this by any means, but
don't bring up any of them.
No. But where do we lie here with that? I mean, what's first of all from the financial end of the racetrack and fans coming in? How many fans can Nodak Speedway afford to give up and still stay afloat?
Well, one thing that Nodak's doing is, there's a drive for inflation right now, increased pricing. We're not increasing any prices. We're already, pit passes are $5 higher than some other local tracks or some other area tracks, but we're not increasing any of the pricing. We also, for those out there that are going to listen to this or watch this, we have no control over the concession stand. So if they raise prices on your beer, they raise prices on a hot dog, that's nothing to do with Nodak. Nodak Speedway doesn't get a dime off it. That has nothing to do with us.
Have you guys ever looked at not having it that way?
Yes, several times.
It just isn't going to happen.
It's not going to happen. I don't even have enough volunteers to work a race night, let alone try to do concessions on our own. Yeah, not something I want to bite off. But racers have been asking for purse increases because the cost of fuel to get to the racetrack, the cost of tires, the cost of racing overall has went up. I would almost say at least 50%.
At least
tires have went from $103 or $4 a tire to $135 in the modified stock car and sport mods. I mean, you're looking at
even higher now.
Even higher.
And then they're hard to get. They're limiting you on certain amounts, which you got to try to make it fair for everybody. You don't want to have one guy who's got more money go buy them all and then leave us all high and dry. So they're kind of staggering it. It sucks as a racer. As the racer, I want I want your purses to raise up. But let's be realistic. They got a business. They got to put tractors on the track. They got to prep the track. They got to get the volunteers. They got expenses too. So if they raise the purse, chances are they're going to have to raise your entry fee.
Yeah, we're going to have to raise an entry fee, raise ticket prices for the fans, and that's the last thing I want to do. I don't want anybody on a Sunday night, Nodak raised our ticket prices, whatever. If we do, saying, well, we're not going to go because it costs us an extra whatever amount of dollars because they raised their prices. I don't want that. I want to keep it the same. I don't think Nodak has raised ticket prices in 20 years, for as far as I know. And pit fees getting in the back gate, we raised them a handful of years ago. And that sole thing was to make improvements in the pit area, which we have. We put up a speaker system. We put a lap board on behind the current lap board. We're expanding the catwalk. There's things that we earmark that extra $5 to get in the pits to do.
It's basically a little tax. It's
Yeah,
not a tax,
in essence,
but it's not it's a tax so you can put improvements that maybe these fans and drivers in the pit area.
Well, I know drivers take it for granted.
Yeah.
They look at the sound system in the pits and they don't give a crap about that. They go, you used my $5 extra to do that. Can't we do something else? Well, it's handy to have.
At that same time, just being the devil's advocate here, though, and just thinking about this, I mean, from the outside looking in, how would you answer this? And I, obviously, as a fan, what I care about is that guys show up at the racetrack and keep putting on the show. You want the guys and gals that come out and race hard and put on a show for the fans. At a certain level, just talking Nodak now, I mean, and it's a two-layered question here, but number one would be other racetracks. I'll use Underwood as an example. Love it. I think it's fantastic. That's dirt track, or Devil's Lake. That's dirt track USA. That's my kind of stuff right there. That is such a cool experience, driving out to the middle of a field somewhere, pulling in, paying your price for coming into the gate, buying your hot dog and your beer, going and sitting in those wood seats thinking that you might fall through them, and watching those late models come at you, almost feeling like you're in danger. There's something awesome about that I love. As a race car driver now, going to the Playground of Power with 6,000 seats there and this pinnacle of stages to put on a performance, do you feel that there should be some special, as a driver now, do you feel that there should be some extra special care for you when you come there, maybe a bigger purse or things like that? I mean, is that a legitimate debate that would come from guys?
As a driver, yeah. That's the stage. Ask any driver, at least in the West or in the Midwest, to win at Nodak Speedway in front of that grandstand. It means a lot. Now, as a driver, it doesn't make sense because I don't, you go to Underwood, you're racing for $250 to win as a hobby stock, and in mine, you're $175. Well, that don't make sense, right? This is a bigger track. They got more overhead. But as a driver, I say, what the heck? I want more money. What the heck? I have to pay all this extra money. I want all this and do all this. We can't get travelers to come because the price is so low. But you gotta do the drivers. Before he got on the board, I never looked at it that way. I was always upset. Why don't this? Why don't we have this? We should have this. You learn the back behind the scenes, you get a different opinion, I guess.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, to tie it all together, because that's where my view would be, that Nodak Speedway is the top. But with that being said, I mean, how much is the economy affecting the racetrack as a business in itself? I mean,
the last 2 years with COVID, the COVID summer, I think if we could go back in our books, the COVID summer was the best financial year the Nodak Speedway's had in, I mean, I don't know, maybe forever. Because there was nothing else to do. The people around Minot, everybody came out because there was nothing else to do. And it's shocking when people hear this, but not only was it the best financial summer for the Nodak Speedway and the people in the stands, our attendance jumped 300-400 a night, but DarnTV's numbers jumped too. So explain that. If both numbers go up, how the heck does that work? That's what, because I'm going to get beat up a lot this year. With people not wanting to travel, fuel prices. For you to go to Williston, it's at least $100 bill.
Easily.
To go to Williston and back, maybe even $120 in your Suburban. Maybe your little car, you might be able to get over there and back for $80. But, then you pull a race car. I've been toying with the idea to go to Fargo for opening night on Friday. I don't know if I even know if I can afford the fuel bill to get Max's race car to Fargo. That's going to be $200 in fuel alone to go there and back. That's what's going to keep racers away. That's what's going to keep race fans away. Should we have raised the purse or give some a little bit of fuel money back? Maybe halfway through the summer, if we're doing good financially, maybe we can do something like that. But the hardest part is when you let's say you have $40,000 in the bank account. We have more than that, but not a whole bunch more than that. Each race night, in essence, costs you about $25,000. By the time you pay out the purse, by the time you rent the facility, you pay all the bills, you're at about a $20,000 to $25,000 cost. Well, let's say you don't get anybody up in the grandstands and you have a bad night. At $40,000 in your account, you're 2 nights away from being broke.
Yeah, it's a pretty big gamble, hey?
Yeah, it's not easy to look at. So to give an extra, and then they talk like, well, it's easy, just give us a little bit of extra money. Well, I can't just give it to the winners. The guy racing for last deserves to have a little bit of fuel money. So let's say you go $25 each position. Well, in 10 spots, that's $250. In 20 spots, that's $500. Times 4 classes, that's $2,000. Add that up over 18 race nights. That's a lot of damn money. And it's hard to explain that to some people that want to travel. And I know they're going to get upset with me because they're going to say, well, we put on the show, so we should get paid. And I agree, but without us having the fans in the stands, there's threefold. We need all three to work. It has to be a triangle. You need fans, you need racers, and you need people that run racetracks. You have to have all three. There's nowhere in the world you can only have 2 out of the 3, unless somebody can prove me different. But we all have to somehow. It's like the COVID year. I kept putting on Facebook, be patient, be kind, we will race again. Because that's all you can ask from people. We will get through this. This economy we're in with the fuel prices. I run a trucking company. It is super hard to make our margins out there right now as a trucking company. Super hard. I got my bosses on my ass all the time. That's the world we're living in.
Yeah, thinking about that from the Nodak point of view, I can see where there would be more expenses than a guy would realize, even all the way down to weekly programs that you print. I'm sure those prices have gone up.
We went last year to printing them ourselves. I made a deal, and if somebody at work is watching, I'm sorry, but I made a deal that I printed them at work to save us the printing money. We designed them ourselves. I designed it myself on my computer, and I printed out the weekly points printout, and I put Power Fuels in the bottom because that's the company I work for. So in essence, they donated the paper and the ink to print them out every week. Those are the little cost savings that nobody sees. We took out, maybe if they cost us $50 a week, you times that by 17 or 18, and it becomes a larger number.
Any concern with the car counts and the number of guys?
I am super concerned. I don't know what our car counts are going to be this year.
I think you'll be okay for a month because we went all winter long without racing, right? We got the itch, the $5 a gallon fuel. I'll eat it now because I really want to race. Come June 1st, man, my bank account is pretty low. I don't think I'm going to Williston this week. I'm just going to stay here in town to race one night.
And it all depends on how well you're doing.
Yeah, so if a certain track you're not doing very good, you're probably just going to stay home, save the money, and put it somewhere else. I think your car count will be okay opening night at most of the tracks. I wouldn't say great, but okay. But I think it comes summer, and then you hit that fair break. I think after fair break, you're going to see. I think it's going to be.
Well, we've seen it last year. Look at the car counts after fair break last year. Our hobby stock count dropped from upper teens all the way down to barely having 10.
Yep.
What's the magic number in your mind as a promoter? Put your promoter hat on. What's the magic number that you need to be able to have a show?
14 to 17.
Each class.
14 to 17 each class. Because you can put this down for a topic, how to run a race program. I love this talk. You get me going on this. We're at about 49 minutes. Do we want to start this right now?
Well, it's a good cliffhanger. Let's
there you go.
Let's cliffhang it.
Because you go 14 to 17. The goal is 2 heats per class. It takes X amount of minutes. I've got it figured out. It takes like 2.5 or 2 minutes and 45 seconds to run a heat race. If you can get the change out of heat race between heat race down to 2 minutes, the car's leaving, the car's coming on, you can get your heat races done super fast, and then you can go and do a feature. But if you start expanding that out to 20 plus cars and you run that third heat race, Well, all of a sudden you're adding the minutes. You know, you add that 5 minutes of dead time between, or you know, if you take a little longer between each heat race, pretty soon your night gets extended, and all of a sudden your night got away from you, and you went from a 2.5 hour show to a 3.5 hour show, and you didn't even realize. You think back on it and go, what did we even do?
Nothing happened. No wrecks happened. It's
Yeah, we
like-
didn't do anything
like
different. I swear to.
the program went actually pretty smooth, but it went an extra hour, you know. And I sure like getting home at 9:30 instead of 10:30.
Trust me, race fans and drivers, we like to be done at 9 o'clock as well. I think you do as well. I like to be done at 9:30. I can be home at 10 o'clock, go to bed, and I get up and go to work at 5 o'clock on Monday mornings. I don't want to be at the racetrack past 10 o'clock.
And that's another good debate as well that should be brought up, and there should be a fan that sits at this table with us and talks about how they're paying $15 to come into a show. They want to be there for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Where me, on the other hand, 3 hours is enough dirt track for me for the night. And I get my fix, and then I go home and watch DarnTV or Dirt Vision or go to YouTube and look at highlights or whatever it may be, IMCA TV across the board. And then you come back and you sit there for that amount of time. But there are those people, and I've heard it before, where they don't like your train of thought.
They don't.
And that's an interesting piece to that puzzle where, to me, I mean, if you break it down, a baseball game or a movie or whatever it may be, and that's always been my argument with dirt track, where it's like, well, you can have this argument, you can complain about it, but there's nothing more exciting than watching Brock Beater take that car onto the inside of somebody, slide it up in front of him, coming out of corner number 4 to win, and watch 2 cars bang, and then he gets into victory lane, and people are booing him and cheering him, and we've got a complete melee on our hands.
But
there's
if
nothing else like that.
If that's done at 10:30 and half the crowd has went home, it's not any fun. Or it's not as much fun.
Agreed.
You know, if you're doing that at stuff at 10:30, 10:45 at night, and most of the people have went home, and I don't like the attitude that some people, well, you got their money. Well, yeah, but they went home with a bad taste in their mouth, man.
Yeah, are they coming back?
If you go over to the movie theater and you get a bad batch of popcorn and flat soda, no matter how good the movie was, you're probably not going to come back, or you're going to think twice about going and spend money at that movie theater.
When you travel Saturday night, let's use Williston for an example, or when you used to go to Mandan all the time, that was a Friday night, Saturday night. If you look at a Sunday, if you had to travel and Williston raced a Sunday night, would you still make that? Would you still make that toll, having to get up and be at work the next morning?
5 years, 7, 10 years ago, Brock, heck yeah, in a heartbeat. Now, in my stage of my life right now and other things going on, not a chance.
I don't want to say there's a chance.
there
I
is a
think
chance,
it's
but-
one of the deals. You know, we start at 6 this first month of May, and the whole purpose of that is to get people out of there because there's school the next morning. Now, if you showed up the month of May, let's say Williston raced on Sunday nights, and this is my attitude, I'm going to try to be over there every Sunday night in May, because I know that if they run a clean program, they'll get me out of there in 3 hours. That's 9 o'clock. I'm leaving 11 o'clock when I get back to Minot. You know, that's
doable.
That's doable. You can get up and go to work. I can go to work on 6 hours of sleep. Most people can, I guess. Now, after them 3 or 4 nights in the month of May, if I'm not in the top,
there you go. If you're not in the
if I'm not
points
having
race,
success, if I didn't win a feature or maybe 2 features, or I'm not in the top 3 or 4 in points, it's not going to be as important for me to go over there on that Sunday night.
like if the car's ready, there's nothing going on Monday, it'll work out, I'll go. But if there's something, your schedule will dictate that Sunday night. I've never had to experience that by racing at Nodak. So Fridays and Saturdays, I don't mind doing it.
From my point of view, as a fan and as a lake person, and as somebody that golfs, Sunday's the prime time for me, just for the record here. It couldn't be any better, really, to start your week or to end your week, however you look at it. But I can see where now that we're in the economy that we're in and where we're standing today, where some of those decisions are going to start to change a little bit. I could see where, if you're on the fence, now the tipping point is, and we don't get home until 11:30, 12 o'clock at night on a Sunday night. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's one of the
That might
concerns.
be your deciding factor now. That and the price of fuel. You got so much stuff more on your plate this year, it seems like, as a racer than just going racing.
And I'm never going to argue family. If Nick Holberg or anybody else sits there and goes, well, I'm not going to make a trip over on a Sunday night because I need to spend time with my family. Absolutely. I'm the most fortunate guy in the world because you know where my family is on a Sunday night?
The racetrack.
The racetrack. I'm with my family. Not everybody has that opportunity. Not everybody's wives or girlfriends or kids, go to the racetrack with them. So when you tell me that you're going to spend time with family, number one, I say yes, go for it. Number two, I hope the hell you are actually spending time with family and not doing something else.
Not using that as an excuse.
Not using that as an excuse.
To make yourself look good, but you still got to do what you want. You didn't have to spend the money. You look good both ways, you know what I mean?
A real magician.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts on episode 1 of the download. I have one before.
Go for it.
Before you guys go. Where do people that are watching this drop their lines and their questions, their comments? How do they get involved? What's the plan of attack?
I don't have a plan yet. So when this is done airing here, it's going to be on Spotify, Apple iTunes podcasts. I suppose go to DarnTV Facebook page and drop me a line. I mean, that's the easiest way. If you want to bring up a subject to talk about. I'm not putting this show on Facebook. I don't want the, I want people to hear what we're talking about. But I think some of the things we talk about, people on Facebook would take the wrong way. Yeah, they would take the wrong way. So I think I'm just going to leave this to Spotify. Somebody can dial us up on a podcasting platform of their choice, whatever they use. And if we're not on that podcasting platform, reach out to me and I will get on that one because there's like 8 of them that I've signed up for to put this out there. So, and half of them I haven't even heard of. But I drop a line to the DarnTV Facebook page. You can email. I can put the email on here, promo@darntv.com. Shoot me an email. Give us a subject. You want to hear us talk about it? The point of this show is to talk about the hard things that are to talk about.
And some guests. I'd like to have some other opinions on here and some other thoughts from people maybe that stand on the other side of the aisle on a few of these topics, which would make things interesting. I'll get a little referee jersey and a whistle and a hat. I think it'd be perfect.
I think it'd be great.
I think it's going to be awesome.
Closing thoughts from you on episode 1 of the download.
I like this. This is something me and Brandon have been talking about all winter. We wanna do something like this. Create a little spark. Controversy sometimes is spark. As long as it's done right, you can promote your thing through that way. And I think that's how we're trying to do this. People are gonna say what they want to say about us and be upset with some things we say. That's our opinion. I guess this is gonna be fun. I'm ready to do it.
Closing thoughts, Mr. Beater.
I don't have any more. I've talked too much during this thing. You guys let me have the microphone way too long.
I don't think so. I think it was perfect.
You think so? That damn soapbox of mine was real good and tall tonight.
A lot of good things to talk about. But that'd be my closing thoughts. Is that it's a good conversation starter and a good way to discuss some of these topics without maybe getting punched in the face. But the opportunity's there for that to happen in the future.
My message to everybody: we're open to having you on the show. Yeah. If you feel that my opinion or Brock's opinion isn't what your opinion is, as long as you can have an adult conversation with us, we're open to having you on the show. You can have a seat here. We'll have I can bring in an extra chair, I guess, if we had to. I have another microphone.
Yeah, we're open to anything. There's really no subject that's off limits. Just be adults about it.
Yep.
That's the only thing is like we're not going to scream and holler and use swear words and all that stuff. That's not happening here. No.
At the end of the day, agree to disagree and let's move on.
Yep.
Join us for episode 2 of the DarnTV download. Thanks for being here.